Dreams Before Extinction is the first of Writers Radio's three-part series, initiated by Carol Harmon, based on the recent publication of the 10-year print anthology Dark Matter, Women Witnessing, Dreams Before Extinction. I'm Ingrid Rose, host of this first part, in which we'll hear excerpts from the writings of the four editors, Lisa Weil, Kristin Flintz, Anne Bergeron, and Gillian Goslinger. The online journal Dark Matter, Women Witnessing, started by Lisa Weil, publishes writing and artwork created in response to an age of massive species loss and ecological collapse. It is a home for dreams, visions, and communications with the non-human world, especially those that seek to heal our broken relationship to the earth. I spoke with Gillian Goslinger in her Arizona home on Zoom just before she set out for ceremonial work in Colombia. Gillian, a cultural anthropologist and feminist ethnographer by training, resigned her academic career due to illness in 2014. Since then, she's been fully engaged in realms of healing close to Mother Earth. Dark Matter, Women Witnessing, Dreams Before Extinction, and you're one of the four editors. It seems that your connection with this marked a change in your life.
Yes.
And I'm curious how that began and where you're at with that. It's some years on, right?
Yes, it is. It's more than a decade on. It's a wonderful question because I think the shift that I was experiencing within myself was happening all along my academic career. In the research that I was doing with villagers in India, women experiencing the literal presence of a deity who would give them their children. These out-of-the-box phenomena from the standpoint of Western or Euro-American metaphysics. And I went into that research with direct experiences of my own from the time I was a student in South India, an undergraduate in South India. So I was kind of leading an academic life and a shadow life. I was trying to bring in the shadow life into my academic life to the best of my ability. And I really did write outside the box when I published my dissertation and other essays that I wrote, but still bound by the academic framework. And it felt extremely dangerous to me personally. I was in a continuous state of high anxiety because the manner in which I was investigating the phenomena and the conclusions that I was drawing from my investigations did not conform to the metaphysics of academia. And what got me catapulted out of academia was illness. I got extremely, extremely sick with Lyme disease, mold neurotoxicity, heightened sensitivity to both physical toxicities, mold. The shamanic illness catapulted me to live on the land. So I spent 2-3 years living in tents in my car and in a van out here in the Sedona Desert, receiving treatments, alternative neurodetoxification treatments in Sedona. And as that was happening, I experienced a lot of shifts in consciousness that were very, very profound, and encounters with nature beings that were clearly communicative, that were communicating to me the goodness of life, the goodness of creation, the willingness of these other species, beings, to communicate with us, to teach us, to show us how to be a human being in right relationship with life itself. Immediately, proximate, not intellectually, but in direct connection with. It's a language that we're remembering, we're putting back together after hundreds and hundreds of years, especially for people of my white background.
This anthology is
Yes.
packed full of women's experiences once each of them recognized something in their own life was missing, be it through illness or through various practices. And then the piece you're going to read, these were early days. I noticed this was a piece that was in the second, I think, online journal of Dark Matters.
Yes, it was. And this piece, I was right when I wrote it when I first arrived in Sedona. I was here literally just a few weeks. Fragility. I am driving along a scenic road in Sedona County, Arizona. Its famed red rocks flanking the winding road on either side and in the distance. A sign announces the beauty ahead, inviting drivers to raise their eyes above the road to look about. Wisps of yellow grass brighten the slopes up to the awesome red rock formations around me. The yellow broken by dark green junipers and pines, fanciful clusters of purple cacti, and rich deep ochre earth. I am enchanted. Around a curve, the mangled corpse of a hare on the road makes me swerve. Around another curve, further down, another corpse, a coyote this time, its skull crushed and its jaw lying flat on the pavement, its body contorted by impact like a gruesome trophy carpet. I swerve again, feeling a pang in my belly. But what a rush the landscape gives. All I have to do is raise my eyes to the horizon to be enchanted again. I imagine that other drivers feel the same hypnotic elation too, eyes and hearts raised beyond our windshields to the sublime on this God-given corner of Mother Earth. The corpses of the animals who didn't make it across the road fast enough jar these good feelings, if you see them at all. Maybe you swerve to avoid crushing the bodies a second time, as I just did, thinking yourself lucky that it wasn't you that crushed them in the first place. If you have a heart, you feel a pang of pity. To witness. I want to turn the concept of witness on its head. I have prided myself on being a witness to these roadkill with my prayers and my thoughts of ceremony. The harsher truth is that I have not once stopped to honor the dead ones. The wanton corpses of creatures killed as they travel the tracks of their lives are witnesses to the wanton narcissism of my breed of humans. To privatize my sorrow, I have a heart, thank God, is to reenact the very narcissism that built the scenic road that cuts through the land in the tracks of others without consideration or respect. The pang of grief I feel is not only my own, it is the pain of a covenant that has been broken. Bad deaths hurt not just the animals or my sense of righteousness, they hurt life itself. An emotional witnessing of the suffering of others can be as ineffective as thought, no matter how intense or sincere the felt emotion. Unless I am honestly present with what has transpired, for example, roads that cut through the tracks of others without respect or consideration, I will not know how to respond in kind, in a way that repairs what has been breached. I wonder what I would come to know if I did stop and keep company with the dead on the scenic road out of love rather than pity. I wonder what I would come to know about what they need. I wonder what I would feel sitting next to them as cars drove by and drivers stared at us. I think being in right relationship with has to be the first step of ceremony, listening to what the other needs in death as in life. Let ceremony begin from that listening. Let all witnessing begin in the here now of keeping company with.
Gillian Goslinger read an excerpt from her essay, Fragility, in the To Witness section of Dark Matter's anthology, Women Witnessing, Dreams Before Extinction. On a different Zoom call, I was able to talk with the 3 other editors of the anthology. We start with Kristin Flintz, whose writings have appeared in many journals. Kristin lives in the woods of northern Connecticut. She's reading excerpts of her piece, Too Much Sky, from the section, The Music of Grief.
Stepping into the foyer of my childhood home, looking up into the kitchen, light streams through the window above the sink. There is too much sky. Missing from view is the shape of my mother, backlit by the sun, turning from the sink to welcome me home. "Oh, hi, honey, how are you?" Missing is the softness of her, as she embraces me for a kiss, and her scent, freshly scrubbed and perfumed with Chanel No. 5 or Yves Saint Laurent's Opium, warm and spicy and mom. People gravitated to my mother's optimism and positivity. On the evening of her wake, despite the sleet and ice of a January storm, the room was full of people whose lives she had touched. The impression was her warmth and joy brimming in those she left behind, uplifting us as they always had done, excluding no one. Sometimes my mother had seemed to me naive about the cruel realities of the world, and sometimes it had seemed to me that she willfully looked away from them. In that way, she was different from me, with my desire to understand the dark matter of human nature and behavior, the causes and the costs. Now that she is gone, as our world spirals deeper into political instability, war, and climate catastrophe, I appreciate how she offered to all who knew her a quiet, steady, and reliable presence in which to rest, be held, get fed, feel safe. When I feel anxious or despairing, I often go outside to watch and listen to the birds. Whatever known and unknown challenges they may be navigating, they appear to me to live in the moment, singing and eating, singing and breeding, singing and making the world around them more beautiful, more precious for their presence. On the 5th day after my mother's death, I was sitting on my back porch when a titmouse landed on a branch just inches from me. She stayed for what seemed a long time, watching me watch her, then flew off. Another titmouse immediately took her place. When that one flew away, a goldfinch flew in to replace her. This continued until 5 birds had visited the branch, completely unperturbed by my presence. 5 days since her death, 5 birds for the 5 of us, Mom, Dad, my 2 sisters, and me. I've experienced nothing like it before or since. In the ensuing months, on multiple occasions a red-tailed hawk circled my parents' house, its persistent cries pulling our attention upward to witness its slow and deliberate flight around and around the house, the yard. Dad, who says he never remembers his dreams, dreamed of a catbird this year, just before they made their annual return to the arborvitae trees that line the right side of the property. Catbirds mate for life, like he and Mom did, and return to the same habitat to nest year after year. Once, my sister and father were having coffee on his deck, and a great blue heron, flying low, circled the house, eventually leaving, then returning 20 minutes later to do a shorter, slower loop. The birds conjure my mother's memory, her easy joy despite the turbulence of the world, how she lived according to her nature, the ways in which her life circled around her family, her friends, and her home. They remind me of how she walked with beauty, grace, and kindness, despite the persistence of the cancer. The morning after my mother's wake, I awoke well before dawn, the memories and emotions of the previous night still running through me. In the eastern corner of the yard, I watched the sunrise over the distant hills with fiery insistence, pushing over the horizon like a baby crowning between his mother's thighs until at last he is free, visible and fully formed. I am here.
Next is Anne Bergeron, writer, teacher, and healing arts practitioner who lives among the trees in eastern Vermont. She's reading from her piece, Calling Out the Names, from the section Healing with Land and Ancestors.
Journey. On the brink of this new year, I realized I wanted to give the collective survival of the earth my voice. The Ainu, who are native to Japan, have a word, iwaru, which means their territory or range, their biome. Iwaru has specific landmass denotations: the deep forest over the rise, a salty bay full of salmon, the high pointy mountain. As is true of most original cultures, the Ainu invest their geography with spirits. There is a pulse in the forest, a cry in the winter field, a song in the mountain. I have long been nostalgic for a home I never had, a feeling that my family, who provided me a very good home on the shoreline of Lake Champlain, surrounded by the Adirondack and Green Mountains, has found difficult to understand. As a teenager, I felt generations of family bonds splintering, at the same time that I witnessed the wild spaces around me diminishing. I felt the ache of being someone who, by following my heart's desire to leave home and explore the world, knowingly participated in the twin losses of family and wilderness. The strength of my desire left me no choice. I had to leave. I had to explore. As a young woman, all I knew was that it hurt to want what I wanted. I have curled myself around that ache, hidden it like a family secret, wrapped it with a silk cloth of protectiveness. I am surprised now to find beauty in the language of its cry. In what appears to me a not entirely even trade with the wilderness, my husband and I have swapped our meager savings for 47 acres of forest land and wild animal habitat high in the hills of eastern Vermont to try to learn something of the language of one place before we die. In memories of our early days here, I find the beginnings of an understanding of our Iworu, and in these memories, the beginnings of a language we will spend the rest of our lives learning. Harvest. 1 year has passed since we were handed the deed to our land. Under this autumn sky, I begin to understand my youthful desire to leave family and home as a yearning to be a denizen of the planet, not a person of a specific neighborhood or even of a specific family. For the first time in many years, I have no desire to leave in fall. On the autumnal equinox, we gather friends to a potluck supper. Night falls, and we stand in a circle around the fire. As I watch the rising smoke, I promise myself to kindle the home fires in honor of the voices that speak to me in these woods and from my ancestral past. I listen to the geese and do not wonder where my next migration will be.
It's a long title for this anthology. I kept on, I was thinking, well, the real title is Dreams Before Extinction. That is obviously folded into this enormous project, Lisa, that I think you started, Dark Matter, Women Witnessing, and then invited, or how did people come to join you?
Oh, well, Kristen, I invited Kristen after the first issue came out. We were at a gathering together, and we've both marveled over how it happened because I don't remember having read anything she had written. I think I had heard her speak a dream, but something made me just reach out to her and say, I would really like it if you could help me. I started this journal and I don't want to do it alone. Do you have any copy? It turns out she had incredible copy editing and over time developmental editing skills. And that's just a small fraction of it because her sensibility complements mine so beautifully. And we also have this amazing friendship. So it's just been kind of a miracle the way that happened. And it's now over 10 years. So that was Kristen. And then Anne only joined as editor of the book. Anne was a contributor to the journal. And then when we started editing the book, she said she would love to be part of it. I mean, I think I asked her because she's a poet whose work I really respect, and we wanted a poet on board. So that's how that happened.
The thing that struck me was Dreams Before Extinction and also the word witnessing, right? Witnessing, you expect a crime. Yeah, it's funny, we don't use it for positive things.
Mm.
And yeah, Dreams Before Extinction. It's really perturbing. And that's the power behind this book, I think. A certain kind of knowing, a sensual relationship, right, with the earth, with everything that's in the earth. And I think so many of the pieces, yes, I mean, particularly even what we just read now, the here-ness of place, the belonging, the names of places, all the ancient wisdom that we don't use in our society that's so governed by science.
Mhm.
How do you live with this grief? The other question I had that goes with that is, what is one thing that you're hopeful about?
Guess the rest of you are aware that Joanna Macy is now dying. Our
Mm.
mission and her work are so kinned. And I'd say the same thing about Dark Matter that I would say about Joanna Macy, that it's only by really, as she puts it, go into the hole and stay there
Mm.
and really feel it. And that's what she's asked people who work with her to do. And this is what we want. The bearing witness and the grief have to happen before we can come out the other end and before we can truly connect with each other. Joanna Macy called it the work that reconnects. And I think you'll see so much in Dark Matter of people talking about kinship and connection, and which is our birthright, you know?
I think there are a couple of things that come to me. The first, Ingrid, is what you picked up on with dreams before extinction. And I'm going to echo a few things that Lisa said, but in my personal experience, I think back in 2011, I began to dream, and they would come almost every night, these epic dreams, and most of them had very difficult subject matter. Almost all of them featured animals, some of whom I was familiar with, many of whom I was not. And so I would wake up in the mornings with these images and these stories playing in my mind. And as I would research the animals that had come, I began to see very quickly that the pattern was all of them were endangered. And all of them were endangered because of our ways of living. And gradually, I came to understand that we humans are animals as well, and we are as imperiled as these other species that are coming. But that ongoing experience of these dreams and being really, we have another friend, Lisa and I, who talks about being, going to night school. I was getting such an education about what was happening to the earth and those of us who live on it. It opened up wells of grief in me that I had just been very, very disconnected from for a long time. But it was through the grief that I reconnected to the earth, to myself. So I think Lisa said that you have to go there. You have to allow yourself to feel those things, and it's through that experience that the connection or the reconnection occurs. But also, your question was how do you live with the grief? And I think for me, part of it is knowing that I am not alone in it. And that is what dark matter has created, enabled, facilitated for all of us who are involved in it, whether we are contributors or editors. It is a community where people find a sense of belonging, and not being alone. And it's not just that as humans, we are not alone with this grief. It's all of these other realms that you're talking about, we're talking about. So there's a way in which I, at least personally, feel very held through the grief, through the witnessing. There is a larger field that is cocooning us in a way, or holding us through the grief.
And that's where your hope is nurtured, I would imagine. If you were to
I think, yes, hope. I have a complicated relationship with that word, but I am continuously reminded of how little we really know. And what I don't want to do is foreclose on any possibilities. We can tell ourselves all of these narratives about what is going to happen if we only use our rational minds, if we only use our scientific minds, if we're only looking at the data, it looks like there is no hope. But I think working on this journal for 10 years tells a different story.
Yeah.
That there are possibilities we cannot possibly conceive of.
My answer to this is really had its start in my childhood. And I realized that certainly later as an adult, but I grew up next to an enormous lake, Lake Champlain or Lake Petabagoc. And it is the thing that has, in many ways, given me an understanding of the bigness that both Kristen and Lisa are talking about, that I cannot see myself except in community to the landscapes where I am, and my connection to the world that I now understand to not be outside of myself, which we like to call the natural world as if it's something separate from the human world, which indeed it is not. So when I think about grief, that I certainly absolutely feel, I also think about, well, this tree at my window is putting down roots every single day, no matter what, as Kristen says, my rational mind might lead me to believe or start to catastrophize about what has not happened yet, what we have not lost yet, but we think that we have, or that we're afraid that we're going to. And so by placing myself as an adult, trying to do that in as direct proximity to the world of plants and animals and trees and forests and bodies of water and rivers in my daily life, I'm never getting up alone. To let myself wallow in grief would in some way to deny the beauty and the life and the presence and the force and the strength of everything else that's rooting down and persisting and continuing. And I feel like that connection just really gives me hope. And when I think about, dark matter, what drew me initially to it was seeing these two images. One of the elephant that is on the masthead, the front page of the journal, and then the other of the clear-cut stumps of the trees. And I looked at that, and I know the story of elephants, and my heart was breaking for both the trees and for both the elephants. And at the same time, new life is going to come. There's going to be a persistence. And I also feel like I believe in humanity enough that there's enough of a groundswell always that we're going to prevail. And maybe the human beings won't prevail, but life is going to prevail in the way that life is going to. And I take great joy and great celebration in that understanding.
Creating this together. I mean, this is really, all the years that you've had the online journal, Dark Matter. And I love the word dark matter, right? There is so much, the unknown is there.
Yeah.
But it's also the space where creation takes place.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely in the dark.
Yeah. I think that it was actually Freud's phrase for the unconscious. I've read that somewhere.
Oh.
At some point. He referred to the unconscious as dark matter. And my friend Gwen, who lives down the hill, Wendy, you interviewed her. It wasn't until I'd already had the journal for a few years that she said she had been fishing mud out of her pond. And she came over and said, "Oh, I've been working with dark matter all day." And I go, "Duh, I hadn't even thought of that level."
The kinds of wisdom and knowing that are coming through the contributors of dark matter are precisely the kinds of wisdom and knowing that have been silenced and oppressed and have led to all kinds of violence against women and the earth for millennia. So it feels really important that there is a safe container and a community dedicated to witnessing the types of knowing and wisdom that is being brought forth through these women and through the journal, and particularly now. particularly now.
I feel like there has been such a silencing of the voices of women in the same way that there has been a silencing of, the natural world, with quotes
Yeah.
around that there have been plenty of places for male voices in the world. And in fact, in my own experience, I was a graduate student in English, and as a member of the curriculum committee for the department, um, was responsible for getting the first female voices onto the master's degree reading list, which stunned me that there was not a female voice there, not even from, 19th century Britain, where everybody kind of tends to go. And I feel like in my own experience, there's just something really right about having a place where, yes, it's safe, but also um, that there's an honoring of that, and that we don't forget that it really wasn't that long ago, when it was hard to be a woman trying to get your voice
Yeah.
heard. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for reminding me. I forget sometimes,
Exactly.
But yes, I mean, most of my life was spent honoring those voices for those very reasons. That's so
Mhm.
true.
I think it's important to acknowledge, too, how much space Lisa has created with this journal.
Hmm.
There is a spaciousness and a welcoming and an inclusivity. When each new issue comes out, all of the contributors get together on a Zoom after they've read each other's work, and we have a community conversation about it. And it's incredible. It feels like so much more than just a vehicle for publishing women's writing. It's so much bigger and deeper and rounder than that.
The history that Lisa brings from her work with feminist literature and with the whole feminist movement, which again was just not, well, second wave was just not that long ago, is really vital to, to us now, and to creating the future, to co-creating the future that we all would love to see and would love to live in.
I have seen a shift away from more human-centered writing to writing that centers the natural world. The humans are a part of it. But in the early days, I don't want to say the writing was more psychologized, but it was more rooted in a perspective of I. And it's really been neat to see that sustained shift.
Yeah. I think we're all saying this in different ways, that we've found ways to open ourselves up enough to see the web that is there to begin with. And that's what the whales welcomed me into, was that World Wide Web.
Lisa Weil is an award-winning editor and translator. Her essays and literary nonfiction have been published widely in Canada and the US. She's founding editor of Dark Matter, Women Witnessing, and lives in Montreal, Canada. She's reading excerpts from her piece, Blow, which appears in the section, The Grammar of Animacy.
It was our last day in Baja. I had come here to spend time with whales. I am not fond of heat, and Baja is hot. And truthfully, whales, though I worshiped them from afar, had not been my favorite mammals. Despair drove me to Baja. It was March 2017, and I was still reeling from the elections and what they said about the US and our chances of redeeming ourselves as a species. Could nature recover from our relentless assaults? Was there any reason to hope? I thought the whales might have some wisdom to offer. That I would be traveling with a women's wilderness outfit and a guide who communicated with whales seemed to increase the likelihood of this outcome. When a blue whale first approached, we were camped on the shore of the Sea of Cortez, just gathering for our morning circle. All the other women fell to their knees and stayed there as we watched her circle the bay. A mama and her calf, our guide told us. In circle, the women spoke in tones of reverence and rapture. I abstained. I had seen those huge bodies blowing and breaching, and yes, it was impressive. They were big, the biggest mammals on the face of the earth, we had been informed. And these enormous creatures had come to us, or so the others insisted, come repeatedly. But I felt nothing, certainly by contrast with my companions. Or, to be honest, I felt rage. What the fuck makes you think they're coming for us? Why would they want to come to us after what we've done to them, done to the oceans? I said this one night around the campfire, my face wet with tears, which in all honesty were probably less tears of shame for our species than pain at not being able to feel what the others felt, at feeling separate from them. But after 5 days on the Sea of Cortez, spying one fluke after another, watching those giant bodies dive and surface and dive again, I'd come to believe, I can't say how exactly, that maybe yes, they did love us, and yes, they had come for us. Now we were staying in cabins on San Ignacio Bay on the other side of the peninsula. San Ignacio is a protected lagoon where gray whales come to calve, and where for this reason they were murdered en masse by humans in the 19th and for much of the 20th century. But now San Ignacio has become a pilgrimage site, a place where humans can venture out in boats and be pretty sure they'll not only see, but be able to touch a gray whale. So I'm now on the lagoon, and we're going out in boats, and we're seeing gray whales, a lot of them. I can still feel it, seeing one of those huge mottled gray bodies arcing and diving and arcing again until she was just alongside the boat, how alive it would get down in my belly. In these moments, there's only body. There's just you and your friends on this boat, and beside you, now practically rubbing up against the gunwales, this giant gray, slippery body of the baby, who's the biggest animal you've ever touched. There's only the feel of the slick, rubbery skin against your hand as the body moves up and down. The feel of your hand inside the baby's mouth when you manage to push past the soft fringe of the baleen and he seems to grip onto it. The feel of that rubbery skin against your lips the one time you manage to attach your mouth to it. And now, a giant body moving towards us. The mama? Yes, just feet away. This I will not miss. We have been sending the mothers our love now for days. We can't help feeling the most aching gratitude to them for the way they keep offering up their young. And now I get to thank her with my hands. I push my way in, extend myself far over the side of the boat. Oh, Mama, come. You're the best Mama. We love you so much. She's now so close, just a few more inches, and my fingers will make contact. Instead, sudden shock, of spray, wet spray, salt spray, jet spray, and now wet hair, wet jacket, wet pants, even the boat wet now, filling with water, and your friends and the driver also wet and pointing at you, laughing. You who all week have been trying to protect your hair from the salt water. You who, when the shock relents, are laughing the purest, loudest, most hearty laugh of your entire life. Also the longest, as it goes on and on and on, because this great mama has chosen this moment of your readiness, your openness to blow on you with all the force of her giant lungs. There's nothing now but this, and then for hours, there's only this, complete abandon to this moment of laughter and love.
You've been listening to the first of Writers Radio's three-part series featuring the 10-year print anthology Dark Matter, Women Witnessing, Dreams Before Extinction. I'm Ingrid Rose, happy to have hosted the first part in conversation with the four editors, Gillian Goslinger, Anne Bergeron, Kristin Flintz, and Lisa Weil, who all read excerpts from their writings in the anthology, which can be purchased directly from their website, darkmatterwomenwitnessing.com, or from your favorite bookstore. Much appreciation for our team, co-host and co-producer Carol Harmon, and our music and technical whiz, Gary Sill. And thank you to you, our listeners.
You have been listening to Writers Radio, a non-commercial collaborative project which presents talented writers reading their own work. These stories, essays, and conversations revisit the long tradition of oral storytelling that connects us to the inspiration behind the words. Be sure to check the website, writersradio.ca, to subscribe to our free notifications list. It's also a way of letting the writers know you are there and appreciating their creative work.
Writers Radio broadcasts from Half Moon Bay on the Sunshine Coast in Canada, traditional tribal land of the Sechelt Nation of the Coast Salish peoples. We express our gratitude for their wisdom teachings and land stewardship.